What's the source of the issues in the Middle East? Take a look at this clip over here with Piers Morgan talking to Sam Harris. They discuss what undergirds the problems in the Middle East, and what might be some solutions to that. So we'll watch this clip together and then talk about it. But first, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Check this out.
Involving several people. One was Mossab Hassam Youssef. He's the son of one of the Hamas co-founders who then renounced Hamas and moved away. And he said this about what's going on at the moment in the Israel-Gaza war. Let's take a listen.
Any person who put the religious identity above the highest interest of humanity, I have no respect for this people. The majority of the Muslim people identified with Hamas, supported Hamas. Show me how many Muslims out there who condemned Hamas genocide.
What was interesting about that is that he was really suggesting that the motivating factor behind what Hamas did and why people are supporting them in such big numbers in the Muslim community is because they're Muslims. It's religion driven. Now, you're an atheist, but what do you think of that, of this idea that it's actually really about religion?
Well, I'm going to agree with him. I think it's interesting to note that many of your listeners will doubt my ability to make the statements of the sort I'm now going to make, but they can't doubt that of him, right? I mean, he obviously knows whereof he speaks, right? You can't play the identity politics game with him and say that, you know, he doesn't understand the culture, he's the wrong skin color, he doesn't speak the language, et cetera, et cetera. So let's let's flag that particular qualm with what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is it should just be obvious to everyone, which is that we have a vast number of people in the Muslim community worldwide, not just in the occupied territories or in Gaza, who are powerfully deranged by religious symbols and their religious identity, which is to say it is the most important thing to them, but more important even than the deaths of their own children, right? We're talking about a culture, again, I'm not talking about just Palestinians, I'm talking about the Muslim community worldwide in dozens of countries that has produced a seemingly unending supply of suicide bombers over the last 50 years, right? We're talking about societies where phenomenon that should be impossible are simply to be expected. I mean, literally like rigging children to explode. Just that, I mean, think of how deranging that is for an army or a police force or an NGO or anyone to have to imagine that a child isn't simply a child, but a child might, in fact, under certain circumstances, be a bomb, right? I mean, that is the situation we're in. We're talking about a society, and now I'm talking about the Gaza and the West Bank in particular, where in their schools, they teach 6-year-olds the love of martyrdom, the literal aspiration to die as a martyr, and the hatred of Jews, and many of these schools are UN funded, right? So this is a terrifying situation which the world has simply acquiesced to. I mean, the world on some level has simply accepted that there is a different standard held to the Muslim community, right? We all understand that you can stage a play making fun of Mormonism on Broadway and it can become the biggest musical in the United States, the Book of Mormon, but to stage such a play about Islam would be unthinkable, and to be unthinkable not because the First Amendment doesn't protect the freedom of speech with respect to Islam, it does, but that protection has been forfeited. It was forfeited long ago because of the tendency in the Muslim community to erupt with just psychopathic rage in response to what it perceives to be the desecration of religious symbols. And that should be intolerable to us. But it's, we have acquiesced to it. And the new norm is there are certain things you can't say about Islam. There are certain symbols you can't traduce. And it's because we know that tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people will march into the streets, even in the capitals of Europe, in response to those blasphemies.
Could you flip the argument the other way too? Some people would say that the scale, the disproportionate, as many see it, scale of Israel's response is motivated in some part, again, by a religious motivation, that some of the more hardline, ultra-religious members of Netanyahu's cabinet really do want to have some kind of genocidal war with the Muslim Palestinians. I mean, does it work both ways?
Well, it does work both ways when you're talking about a tiny minority of Jews in Israel. I mean, the ultra-Orthodox, the settlers the minority of settlers who are motivated by their religious fanaticism. Yeah, I think those religious claims upon real estate in the Middle East are not justified, and they aren't, in fact, part of the problem. And so, yes, the settlements in the West Bank are certainly provocative, and they should be disallowed, right? If we were ever going to get to a two-state solution, part of the remedy there is to disenfranchise the religious maniacs on the Israeli side. But in terms of the scale of the problem, it is orders of magnitude smaller. I mean, not just for that particular region, but for the whole world. I mean, we're talking, there are 15 million Jews on earth. Most of them are impressively secular. Most believe very little that would motivate a person to want to die for their religious identity. The real justification.
Yeah, I just on that, I would just say, I just wonder whether you think that what is going on now in Gaza, the kind of obliteration of a lot of Gaza, the mass killing of civilians and so on, which Israel will justify by saying they're trying to get rid of a terror group. I understand the thinking, but the execution has been so increasingly indiscriminate that is there not a danger that it actually massively increases the radicalization problem rather than remove it?
Well, there's two pieces to that answer. One is that the real problem of radicalization, I would say, is not connected in any kind of rational way to real world grievances, right? I mean, so the real problem of radicalization is the level of ideas, right? Ideas around martyrdom and jihad that easily cross borders, and as we saw with the Islamic State, can easily win recruits from 100 countries. I mean, so you literally have people who have no discernible grievance against anyone. I mean, you have somebody dropping out of medical school in London going to fight with the Islamic State purely on the power of certain ideas, right? So that's a larger problem of jihadism and specific religious beliefs that are endemic to Islam, and that it is taboo to criticize. If you're a Muslim, you certainly risk your life and with charges of apostasy and blasphemy if you criticize these ideas. But specifically with Gaza, I mean, the killing of innocents in Gaza is an absolute tragedy, and it's very easy to understand why people seeing that imagery think that Israel is in the wrong for producing so many casualties. But they are fighting a terrorist organization, a jihadist organization, that is using its own civilian population as human shields. It has strategically embedded itself among civilians. It wears civilian clothing, right? It put its headquarters under a hospital. It prevents civilians from leaving to safer areas because it wants to produce carnage, because carnage is an advantage in this PR war against Israel. And frankly, these people sincerely believe in paradise. They think that good Muslims are going to go to paradise wherever they die, however they die. And so there is, in fact, no problem with this carnage, right? And that's the thing that is very difficult for secular people to get their heads around, that people actually believe these things. When members of Hamas chant, "We love death more than the Jews love life," that is a sincere expression of their worldview, right? It's not propaganda, it's not posturing. It is a confession of a psychological state of mind and of a worldview. And we doubt that at our peril, right? I mean, this is the issue. We're dealing with a suicidal death cult that doesn't care about its own civilian casualties.
Right.
In fact, its own civilian casualties are an additional advantage for it.
Sam Harris, great to talk to you again. I really appreciate you coming on and speaking with such clarity about a complex issue. Thank you very much.
I am not an Islamic scholar, nor was I born in the Middle East and have direct contact with the region and the things that go on over there. That's why I look to someone like Musab Hassan Youssef, who is the so-called son of Hamas, because his father was one of the founding members of Hamas. And not only is he well studied in Islam, he's also someone that grew up in the culture of terror. And what he says about the culture of terror is that in this extremist radical Islamic terror, that the goal is to eradicate all Muslims, either to convert by the sword or to kill those that are not of that particular radical belief system. It's not against Jews. It's not against Christians. It's against all non-Muslims, and not only Muslims, but not non-Muslims that are in that extremist category, because they make war amongst themselves with Muslims that are not of their same belief system. And so this is a war of civilization. This is a war of barbarity versus civility. This is the West versus an extremist ideology, and it can't be allowed to creep into more Western countries and more Western countries, and to cause the destruction that it wants. It wants the destruction of the West. It's fighting against all of Western civilization as we know it, and we need to do our part that this is not going to be something that continues. If you like this content overall, hit that subscribe button over there in the corner. We'd love to stay in touch. Take care.